those of you who know my fundamental teaching on God's grace and God's mercy, God is the same.
Yesterday, today, and forever.
He's always the same, right? Except that we're living in this dispensation or in this place or in this season where God's grace is just overflowing, right? Where sin abounds.
Grace abounds.
Super abounds.
Okay, so we're living in that time, right? There's a season for everything, and we're living in this season since the cross that we're under this amazing grace, but yet there's still that justice of God. And we've been talking about justice. Some of you are here for the first time, but we've been talking about justice for a long time. And you have to understand that there is no mercy without first justice, because justice is what cries out for mercy, right? So when you fall under justice, then you need to cry out for mercy, because you are either going to defend yourself, right? So if justice says you're guilty and you want to say, oh, I'm not guilty. It's interesting because I was listening to the news this week, which you all know I'm so stuck on, I try to get away from it. But I'm so stuck on what's happening because it's so prevalent to what's happening in the church, right? So when justice comes, I hear these people say, not guilty. He pleaded not guilty, right? And so they now have to go to court and they have to, present evidence. Let me just tell you, church, we are always found guilty, wanting, right? Right? When justice falls, we are always found wanting. The scales will always find you wanting. I know that's sobering, and I know that that's not a popular thing for people to talk about, especially in the church. But the truth of the matter is we always are found wanting. It doesn't mean that we wind up being judged, though. The reason that we're not judged is because of His mercy, not because of our innocence. Do you hear what I'm saying, church? We are found wanting every time. Every one of us have fallen short
of the glory of God.
Of the glory of God. I was going to take the time for us to read it, but I think that we so understand that, especially since I've been teaching on justice for the last couple of months. We have an understanding that without Him opening our eyes, we were haters of God. We hated Him. And if it wasn't for the fact that He opened our eyes and gave us an understanding of who He was, He gave us a revelation of who He is. Because before that, we only had a revelation of ourselves, and we had ourselves on the throne. Yeah. We had ourselves in the place of the superior place of understanding of everything in our life. It was us first. Until He revealed Himself, and when He revealed Himself, I'm kind of, going back to what we talked about, then we understood through the baptism of John, right? Through John's baptism, those of us who come to the North Gate, we have an understanding through the baptism of John that God is holy, that He is high and lifted up, right? And we are found wanting. And so many churches leave people there. So every week, they come every week trying again and again, whether it's at the altar or whether it's in prayer or whether it's crying or whether it's whatever it is, they are trying to get to that place where they don't feel the wanting anymore. And the only thing that can get us out of understanding that we are guilty, that we have been found guilty, is through the righteousness that comes in our faith in Christ Jesus. Amen. And when we find that, that's where we find mercy. And this is what mercy says. Mercy proclaims something over us. And our feelings don't line up with it. Yeah. And even the continuation of our life doesn't line up with it. Because you would think that once He proclaims us innocent, and that's what He does, because it's not just justified. Right? We know we're justified through Christ, right? But I don't like that word. If you look it up in the Greek, it's justified isn't justifiable enough for the word. It means rightified, which is not a word, but I made it up, right? Because it means made right. So it isn't that God took us and said, oh, you know what, he's a bad guy, but I'm going to justify his badness. No, he says, listen, he once was, but now he is. Oh, you missed it. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now see. I was made right by him. So when he looks at me, he doesn't see me someone who was not right and then justified in my unrightness, but he sees me as rightified. I am completely made right in his presence, in my relationship with him. Okay? And so what's been happening, especially right now, is that God has been in this place of where he has his mercy, but when he gets to a place where he wants to pour out mercy, it has to be something has to come before the mercy. And what comes before the mercy is always, always justice. So if we are crying out as a people for revival, how many of us were crying out for it, right? I want it in my own life, right? I've been crying out, Lord, I love you. I've been talking to some people that have been saying, man, we've been sustaining for 20 years, right? We've been talking about sustaining for 20 years. But we want something, we want a revival, we want an awakening, we want a refreshing. Let me tell you what comes before that. If a new mercy, if mercy is going to be expanded in our understanding, he will first bring justice. And I'm telling you, he's already beginning to bring justice. And it always starts in the house of God. Always starts in the house of God. So it's happening with me. I'm like going, wow, Lord. Man, I thought, I was over this. And he's saying, no, this is who you still are outside of me. Don't ever forget, without me, you're still that outside of me. But in me, you are not even close to that. And that's crazy, right? That's like almost crazy talk. And so what we are understanding right now is God is bringing this justice to our land, and which is going to find us wanting. But what I'm excited about is what comes after that. What comes after that is his mercy. And when his mercy comes, revival is there.